My main memories were when I was a little girl. My mother used to work at Brough Nicholson and Hall, and I went to school at St Luke's School, just in Earl Street. And after school, I would go into Fountain Street, because where my mother worked, it was first floor of the main mill. And she used to come and wave to me through the window.
I felt too young, I wasn't ready.
Oh, you were very young.
Yes, I just wasn't ready to work. I wanted to pursue my education, I really did, but I just wasn't allowed, mainly because I was a girl. My mum had said, we need the wage, Sharon.
And sometimes, on a Friday, they would lower a piece of string down out of the window and tie some money on it. Now go up to the cake shop and get a bag of cakes and tie it onto the string, and then they'd haul it up. And there was always a cake for me, of course.
The bit I worked in was the old dye house, which was really old-fashioned. It was very hot in summer, and cold and damp and steamy in winter.
Was it a stone floor or wooden floor?
It was all concrete floor.
A concrete floor.
Well, they were all heavy machines.
Yeah.
And the new dye house, that was nicknamed the Lizard House, because it was that hot and steamy. It was like a tropical house at the zoo.
And a gentleman called Anthony Bowyer, I remember him, he was very kind to me. He showed me where I'd got to go, up loads of steps. And I just started, just checking scarves.
The floors were very uneven because they were big beams and they'd been worn away.
Yeah, and in the warm weather it was boiling hot.
Yep.
But in the colder weather it was freezing cold.
Freezing cold in the winter, boiling hot in the summer, but light and airy.
But what I remember most of all was all the dust.
Right.
Because I'm asthmatic, you see.
Me too.
Yes. And I remember all the dust and all the noise.
You could see fibres in the air.
You could.
You could. Feel that.
Yes.
When I went through the machine
Yes.
rooms, you could see them as a
you
child, and I
could.
used to seize up because I had
Yes,
childhood
that's
asthma
it. Yes,
too.
you could see it if the sun was shining through.
Yeah, you could. All those bubbles. Yeah.
And when there used to be a night shift running the stenters, and it was hot, thirsty work in summer and on nights, but there was a broken window pane, pavement height. And I used to go up and shout through, and they'd tell me an order and give me some money, and then I used to pack it back through this hole in the window.
So I worked in the cutting room, then I went downstairs and worked on machines, worked on every machine in the factory. I wasn't paid piecework rates, but I was expected to work as fast as the girls on piecework. I could put in 96 dozen gussets a day, but when I discovered that the girl who'd been doing it for years could do 104, I thought, blow it, I'm not going to kill myself for 8 dozen gussets.
When I first went to the dye house, when they let the dye bath go, they just pull the plug and it was all over the floor. So that's the old boys used to wear clogs then. So so they didn't rot.
I would go into the mill up to the room where my mother worked, which was where they produced jacquard cards that went on to the looms to make various patterns. And mother did a strange job which I could never figure out. It was called lacing the cards together. So when those patterns were cut onto the jacquard cards, she would lace them together so that eventually when they went onto the looms they would make a pattern. Made all sorts of things, badges and labels and bookmarks, all sorts of things from the jacquard cards.
But we didn't produce a finished article. We weren't actually textiles, we were spinners. Originally silk, and then of course nylon and rayon and all these things to make the crimplene that everybody wanted in the 70s. The big thing. Yeah.
The cards were produced by one of the men in the room, and they were all different holes, and they had little, what I used to call nippings that came out of where the holes were cut. They would make the patterns for the badges and labels, and then they would go to the looms.
The day I arrived, I was sent up to the top floor to work with Hilda, and she was very strict. She'd been in the army during the war, and I think she'd been a sergeant major, but never mind. But she was very fair. Of course, when you've been sitting in school all the time, to be suddenly doing very physical work, because you're standing all day, walking around all day in the cutting room, you got a bit tired, and if you rested, leant on the table, she was there. Come on, keep going.
What was your job? What was
I
your
was a
first
sewing
job?
machinist. Lux did women's lingerie all night, night dresses. We even did knickers that were going abroad for strippers.
Oh my
With
goodness.
ribbons that tied at the waist, so
I
they were
see,
easy
so
to
they
get
could
off.
easy get off. My goodness.
Yes, yeah.
I started as a trainee machinist.
Right. Yeah. So as a machinist, would you be given pieces of fabric?
Yes,
Yes. To
yes,
join
pieces of
together,
fabric. It was a team. So you'd have a team of girls that would do the whole garment in dozens.
Right.
So you'd start at one end, and then it'd end up with a finished garment.
I did have a little mishap with one of the machines once, and it caught the front of me big sloppy cardigan I was wearing and
Gosh.
wound it in. Luckily it was an old one and it ripped down the front.
The women certainly weren't shy. And the poor rare man that worked there didn't dare walk across the factory floor.
No,
fear
bit
of being whistled
terrified.
at.
Yes, whistled at.
I'd got a good team of supervisors. That was the main thing, good departmental managers. And we got on well. We'd have a laugh as well at times, but at the end of the day, it was quite a tight ship.
We had what they call Bull Week. It was like a few weeks before your holiday, and you were on piecework, so you got a bonus for how many pyjamas you turned out or whatever. And so you worked extra hard then. They used to call, come on, get your finger out, it's
Yes.
Bull Week.
So the pressure was shared rather than on myself, really, If anybody had a problem, they'd come to me. I don't have a problem with that.
There was, and what I can remember most is the camaraderie. So if one woman was going through a divorce, whatever you thought, everybody'd sit through her.
Yeah.
If somebody was proud that the child was going to grammar school, everybody chipped in. When you got married, you had a nightie made for you.
Oh, lovely.
Well, just going to work, I just loved it there because the level of responsibility and the fact that, I got on so well with the directors, really.
Jobs were plentiful. You could walk in and out of a job as you suited. There was massive of adverts in the Sentinel and the Leek Post. Girls wanted to be machinists.
You could get a job anywhere in those days.
I can remember lots of laughter, and I can always remember on a Friday, the women had come in with the rollers in because they were finishing, and they'd sit no, you wouldn't be allowed it now. They'd sit at the machines with the rollers in, and then at the end of the day, there was always somebody on the team that could do hair and makeup.
Fabulous.
And you'd be having your hair and makeup done, and off you'd go.
If you could only hear the odd machine going, you knew something was wrong. But when you walked and opened the door and you'd hear a hum, a buzz, all the machines going all at once, everybody busy, that's what you wanted to hear, because everybody was happy when that happened. Yeah, the girls as well.
And the other thing you remember as well, just going off on a bit of a tangent, was the fires. There was certainly the 60s and 70s. There was fires, there was textile fires, and there were massive fires. There was mares going up, I remember, on Wellington Street, on top of John Street was a massive fire.
We couldn't produce dyed cloth as cheap as the Chinese and the rest of the Far East, because over here it wasn't what you call a sweat box, was it? So
it seemed near all the time. There was somewhere, it's almost like another one's gone, if you like. It almost was a shrug of the shoulder. It was very sad, but they went up like just went up like bonfires.
I remember when the mills shut and the town went quiet. It was quite an eerie feeling because we were so used to the background noise. We didn't really notice it, but I noticed when it went quiet. Just in the town, walking round town, wherever you were, we could always hear the mills. But then it just went quiet. And it was quite unsettling, really.
I mean, the thing was, that what you've got to remember is when the coal mines started closing in the mid-80s and the steel industry closed down, they were mainly male-driven industries. So there was a huge outcry about it all. But somehow with textiles, with it being female-led, mainly female labour, for some reason it sort of also disappeared without there was no great outrage from anybody, from the unions to the politicians. It just sort of was left to sort of drift away almost, if you like.
Everybody complained about working in the mills, but I think we'd go back to it. You see, but it's just the quietness. It just went quiet.